Coming up on Pet Heroes, when an elderly couple finds themselves in the middle of a freak ice storm, their only hope for survival is their beloved dog. And a blind woman finds her apartment engulfed in flames. Her only hope of escape is her pet cat.
Hi, I'm Jason McCoy, and welcome to Pet Heroes. Cats and dogs each have a unique ability to sense danger. Their first instinct is to always get themselves to safety. But what happens when that danger threatens the lives of their human companions? We examined two stories of people in dangerous situations who must rely on their pets to get them to safety.
Eve and Norman Fertig of Alden, New York, have dedicated over 30 years to the rescue and rehabilitation of injured animals.
We purchased the Enchanted Forest in 1978. And I opened the sanctuary after working as a volunteer with a veterinarian that also was saving wildlife. Our motto here is, if it comes from the land, the sky, or the sea, our job is to heal it and set it free. The medical building is for when they come in severely injured and wounded. When they feel that they're ready to learn to fly again, I transfer them to the aviary. When they can show me they can fly as high as the ceiling, then I open the doors and the windows and let them go free.
In 1999, Eve and Norm take on a very sick 2-week-old, half-wolf, half-German Shepherd pup, bought from a backyard breeder by a naive family.
They brought me Shaina, worms in her intestines, mange over her body, 2 very infected ears, and thin ribs. I didn't think she'd like it.
Thanks to Eve and Norm's loving care, Shaina makes a full recovery and quickly makes herself at home in the sanctuary.
Shaina Maidler is her full name. It means pretty woman. I'm never without her.
It's a clear autumn day in October.
How are you doing there?
Oh, just about done, and then I'm going to get the vacuum.
Eve and Norman are at the sanctuary attending to the animals and cleaning cages.
Finish this one, and then I've got this one over here.
Uh-oh.
Thinking they've blown the fuse, Eve sends Norman out to check the fuse box.
When he opened the door, it wasn't just my hospital building, the classroom lights were out. So it wasn't a fuse only, it was something big, and then the street light was off, and then we knew, oh no, it's a blackout everywhere. And then it starts to snow. I said, Norman, we're in trouble. And then snow becomes ice, and the temperature drops in a short time, just cold.
Unable to see in the ice storm, Eve and Norman struggle down the path toward their home, only 50 feet away. But it may as well be miles.
And then we heard snapping, cracking. The branches, the weight of the ice in just a short time was cracking large branches.
Now, cut off from their house, Eve and Norman try to get back to the shelter of the hospital.
Now what?
One branch blocks the door to the hospital building. We can't go back. And we're standing there in shock, watching everything come down. And I'm thinking, we can't stay here. We'll be in big trouble. And I said to my husband, we gotta get out of here. And we didn't know how.
The massive ice storm wreaks havoc, tying up emergency crews throughout the area. Even if someone is aware that Eve and Norman are in grave danger, no one can get to them. David Sublick is fire chief for the Alden and Lancaster townships.
I left my residence for my first call at 11:15 that night, and you couldn't even see 3 feet in front of you. That's how hard it was snowing, and it continued for 4 hours.
And I thought, well, we'll just step on the fallen trees. And I remember just one leg touching them, and down they came. And that's when Shaina crossed in front of us, and she bent down like a wolf, and she started to dig. And I watched her dig, and I heard her breathing heavy, and then she disappeared. And I called to her, come back, and more trees kept falling on top of her. I thought she's going to get crushed in that tunnel.
Coming up next, with Eve and Norm Furtick trapped by fallen trees, their dog Shaina becomes their only hope. Eve and Norm Furtick find themselves caught in a deadly ice storm. Their trusted dog Shaina begins to dig a tunnel through the snow and trees. But as the temperature plummets, the risk of hypothermia becomes an increasing threat to the elderly couple. Wendy McClellan, a doctor of veterinary medicine, offers her unique perspective on animal behavior.
By observing slight changes in Norman and Eve's behavior, their tenseness of posture, change of voice pitch, even the smell of adrenaline, Shaina knew through her sixth sense, or doggy ESP, that something was really wrong. For Shaina, when she finds herself and the Furticks trapped, her initial reaction is to get to safety. As a wolf-shepherd hybrid, Shaina is naturally inclined towards digging.
For quite a while, she was gone, and after a while, we hear her like a howl bark, like a distress bark that wolves are noted for. And she's back on the porch. I said, look where she got. And she's sort of saying, come on. And that's when I said to Norm, let's go. He said, that's what he told me. He did enough foxhole on Okinawa. He's not going in there. And I said, Norman, if you don't follow me, I'm going to get a divorce. He looks at me, and the little vein on his forehead's pumping away, and he said, you can't do that.
As Eve and Norm negotiate, Shaina grows tired of waiting.
When we didn't respond and go into the tunnel ourselves, she came back. And she came back from the back deck through the tunnel, and she came to us where I was standing and freezing, and she grabbed the sleeve of my short jacket, pulled me, and I fell on her back, and I put my arms around her heavy neck, and she started to move to take me out, and that's when I called my husband to grab my ankles.
Shaina works tirelessly to pull Eve and Norm through the narrow tunnel to safety.
Inside the tunnel, it wasn't like a wall like the hollow tunnel. It was pieces of branches stabbing her. It took a long time, and it was dark in there. Now, I weighed maybe 90 pounds then. Norman was 160 pounds at least. She pulled us both.
Animal behaviorist and psychology professor Michael Snyder shares his scientific insight.
Dogs have a different muscular system than humans do. They've got extremely strong neck and shoulder, upper body musculature. Part of this is due to the way that their skeletal structure is. On the back, we see additional ridges, and these are attachment points for the muscles coming up from the neck to the head. So this allows dogs to exert a great deal of muscular energy. When Eve wraps her arms around Shaina's neck, this is just about the best possible place that she can manage to grab onto Shaina for Shaina to be able to pull them to safety. Eve would not have been cutting off Shaina's air passages doing this, and as such, this probably put very little strain on Shaina. It certainly would not have been something that would have been seen as to Shaina threatening or really painful.
The 50-foot journey takes more than 2 hours. But at 2 a.m., Shaina, with Eve and Norman in tow, makes it to the house.
It was late. And then we laid there, and she was on top of us, with her body warming us, and licking our faces were frozen.
With no heat or power, Eve and Norman rely upon Shaina to keep them warm throughout the night. Having also weathered the storm, neighbors concerned for Eve and Norman's safety contact local authorities.
Norman!
At 8:30 a.m., Fire Chief David Sublick and his crew arrive.
When I got here, we evaluated Eve and her husband Norman for hypothermia. She then proceeded to explain to us how the dog had tunneled underneath this big tree. My guys went out and took a look and actually found a tunnel about 2 foot in diameter that was dug underneath the tree because there was no way else they would have gotten into the house.
Heat and electricity are still days away. Chief Sublick insists upon taking Eve and Norman to the firehouse. Unfortunately, Shaina cannot accompany them.
I said, no, she don't go, I don't go. And he looked at me and he said, you've got to come. I said, I stay with her. And I meant it. Well, he said, then we'll make you as comfortable as we can.
Eve and Norman remain at home for 3 days in a house with no power, heat, or hot water. Shaina sleeps with their owners to keep them warm, and firefighters visit daily with fresh supplies of food and water.
The whole area was totally isolated. The temperature dropped into around 30 degrees Fahrenheit. If they would have stayed out there any longer than what they did, both of them would have perished.
The town adores her. They're so proud of having a hero dog in Alden, and they're talking about a statue in the park. I believe we become closer now, and I feel very safe here and secure because she's here. And she is a very remarkable animal.
Dog likes me. I've become adopted to the family. We kind of adopted Eve after the storm because of her nature and her goodwill. We actually made Eve an honorary fireman at our banquet in 2007, along with the dog.
Shaina has received several awards, including the Citizens for Humane Animal Treatment's Heroes Award for Bravery, an award traditionally given to people. Though her husband Norman has since passed away, Eve continues her work at the Enchanted Forest. Through her lecturing, teaching, and endless volunteer work, she has rescued countless animals and inspired others to continue her work.
And for the past 31 years, I've taught 400. They are now my Johnny Appleseeds. They have opened their sanctuaries. There are big sanctuaries all over established by my children. And they are doing even more work because they have more volunteers. And now I'm very proud to say they're all carrying on my mission. And it means a lot.
To this day, Shaina remains Eve's constant companion.
And I think what we did for her, she sort of felt now she has to save us. And I think this is what it was all about, that they feel a kinship for someone that saved their lives. There's no doubt about it, she saves our lives. She is a real hero, heroine, fantastic animal. And we're very grateful to her. I'm very fortunate that I have her. You're my girl, you know that. I don't know what I'd do without you.
Next, a blind woman finds herself trapped in a raging inferno and must rely on her pet cat to lead her to safety. We just saw how Shaina, an incredible half-wolf, half-German shepherd, was able to dig a tunnel and guide elderly couple Eve and Norman Fertig to safety. Next, we look at the story of Tia Jenkins and her cat, Samantha. Tia Jenkins lives in Louisville, along with her boyfriend, Jason Bradley. Tia's disabilities make it difficult for her to live a normal life.
I have a medical condition called pseudotumor cerebri, which is equivalency of shaken baby syndrome.
Tia suffers from epileptic seizures, as well as coping with bouts of depression and very limited vision.
I have no peripheral vision at all, and I basically see clearly the big E on the eye chart. So technically, I'm legally blind.
Despite her condition, Tia manages to take care of her turtle, Shelly, and her cat, Samantha.
Shelly has always been, since I've had Samantha, her best friend. I can let Shelly run on the floor. Samantha will turn around and babysit her kind of like this, big sister type attitude.
Tia remembers inheriting Samantha from an angry neighbor.
My intentions was I was going to find her a home, and she wormed her little way into my heart.
Cats have a very different sort of social mentality or approach than dogs. They will respond to social validation and praise and whatnot, but they don't have that same sort of pack dynamic that dogs will. They tend, though, to make a stronger bond with perhaps an individual as opposed to an entire family unit.
Samantha has become more than just a pet to Tia. She's become a certified service animal for her ability to alert Tia to oncoming seizures and ease her bouts with depression. Debbie McGrath is the executive director of the Epilepsy Foundation of Kentuckiana.
Tia has a sight impairment, and so she needs as much help as she possibly can get. Many individuals don't have an aura or a warning that the seizure is going to happen. For those individuals that do, they know then that they need to get themselves in a safe place. But for those that don't, like Tia, then she had no warning prior to getting Samantha. And now she has Samantha, and Samantha's alerting her. This is crucial. This is critical.
Samantha will go to the window, and in the window there's an alarm. Well, she'll hit it, and it will call for EMS for me. To where they know, hey, look, there's a service animal that has triggered this. If I don't respond, then they'll dispatch EMS.
This is a unique story in that cats are not generally used as service animals. They are less trainable and less predictable than their canine counterparts. But in this case, it's clear that Tia relies on Samantha for help. When Samantha alerts Tia to oncoming seizures, she's responding to biochemical and behavioral changes she observes in Tia.
It was in the early evening. It was a couple of boneless pork chops on the George Foreman grill, and basically my stove was bad where we could not use it. We called it cross-wired. We had reported it to the landlord.
Tia exits the kitchen, but what she doesn't know is that the stove's faulty wiring has caused an element to turn on. As she works on her computer with Shelley and Samantha close by, Tia has no idea about the situation in the kitchen, a situation that could turn deadly.
Well, I turn around and I'm watching that. All of a sudden, I heard the sickest sounding meow. And it was like you knew something was wrong. And I looked over, and Samantha's at the kitchen door crying. And I'm like, what the heck? What's going on?
With Tia's vision problems, she can only make out an orange glow coming from the stove.
The stove apparently had came on and ignited the George Foreman grill, which was on the top of the stove. Samantha was trying to draw my attention to it by letting me know, hey, something's wrong.
Panic sets in as the kitchen burns. Samantha aids Tia in locating the fire extinguisher.
And I grabbed it, popped the pin, and hit it, hit the fire. And all the smoke from the fire just came rushing back at me. I was terrified. I thought I was toast. I thought I was gonna be meeting the good Lord upstairs. I'm sitting here disoriented, trying to feel my way around, probably tripping over everything I know of.
Struggling to get out of her apartment, Tia follows the sound of Samantha's cries and is amazed to find that they have led her to Shelley's tank.
It was kind of this, if she don't go, we don't go mentality. So she had to get everybody out.
This is the apartment we lived in. This is the door that she would have had to come out to get out of the building. They come up this hallway to get and you can see how narrow it is. So you can imagine with the smoke coming out here, it made it very hard for her to go down that way with these steps here and had to navigate around that.
the animals acted in a way that was in keeping with their biology. In times of stress, go to places of safety. It just so happens that, fortunately, in this case, Tia was able to hear Samantha and followed. Her actions did bring Tia over to the carrier. It did take her away from the disorienting smoke and fire, and therefore allowed Tia to make some good decisions that saved not only herself, but also her 2 pets.
Samantha's always been a very extraordinary kitty. You know, with me being depressed, she's always pulled me out of it. With seizures, she's always been there. But, you know, with this, it went above and beyond. You know, guess without her, I wouldn't be here. You know, and she is my angel kitty.
Just having that ability to alert your owner about a seizure happening, but also in danger, in a dangerous situation such as that, was critical. Otherwise, there is a good chance that Tia would not be here today if it weren't for Samantha.
I love her, you know, and it's just amazing that she has done so much. I just can't believe it.
Eve and Norman Ferdig and Tia Jenkins have their pets to thank for saving their lives. Shaina's natural instincts to get to safety allowed her to tunnel under the fallen trees, but it's the bond she established with Eve and Norman that made sure she took them with her. In the case of Tia Dawn, her cat Samantha, having sensed danger, was able to alert Tia to the fire and guide her and her turtle Shelley to safety.